Hello and welcome to my ultimate automation tutorial for PlateUp. In this video, I'll teach you how to set up automation to help you survive longer in your runs. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments. To start off, let's talk about how to get enough automation appliances to start automating. So first of all, we'll need one blueprint cabinet, and also one research desk blueprint. The most essential part of this step is to make sure you have not bought a research desk beforehand. It's like this because when you buy a research desk, it makes it less likely to appear later in the run. So, let's go ahead and put this in the blueprint cabinet. Later in the run, if luck is on your side, another research desk blueprint will appear. We just want to go ahead and buy that. And now, during the day, we want to upgrade this blueprint to try and get a copying desk. And now, hopefully, when we upgrade this, we should get a copying desk. If you don't get a copying desk on your first try, don't worry. If you copy again the next day, it cycles through all the research desk upgrades. So just keep upgrading until you get the copying desk. Once you get the copying desk, take it out and buy it if you have enough money. If you don't have enough money, wait until you have enough. And now, once you get an automation appliance, you'll just want to put it in the blueprint cabinet and copy it. Now let's talk about all the appliances that are necessary for automation. Let's start this off by talking about the conveyor, the grabber, the smart grabber, and the rotating grabber. The conveyor upgrades into the grabber, which upgrades into either the rotating grabber or the smart grabber. Let's start off with the conveyor. What the conveyor does is it pushes items that are placed onto it, onto the appliance in front of it. Let's say, for example, we grab one of the burger buns and put it on the conveyor, it will be pushed onto the counter in front of it. However, if we place it on the counter behind it, it will not grab it and will just stay on the counter. This is where the grabber comes into play. Let's say you grab the burger bun, you place it on the grabber, it moves it in front of it just like the conveyor, but this time, if you put it on the counter behind it, it'll grab it from the counter and push it onto the counter in front of it. Additionally, if a grabber grabs an item and there's not an appliance in front of it, it'll stay on the grabber. This goes with the rest of the grabbers and conveyors as well. Next up is the smart grabber. This grabber does everything the grabber does, but you can set it so it takes only the item that you specify. For example, this burger bun. Now, let's say for example, we have this patty. The smart grabber will not take the patty, and instead only take the buns. However, we can rewrite its configuration by placing the patty on it. So now, it will only take patties. The green light means it detects the item and it grabs it. The smart grabber is very useful for automating stuff like washing the dishes, as we can see here. First of all, we want to set up the smart grabber by placing a clean plate on the grabber, just to make sure that the dirty dish doesn't get pulled when we place it on it, like here. So we just want to set it up so it only takes clean dishes. And now, when we go ahead and clean a dish, when it's finished cleaning, it'll get taken and placed into the dish rack. An important side note about the grabber and the rotating grabber is that they only grab off an appliance once the appliance is finished with its process. For example, if a patty is cooking on a hob, the grabber will only take it off once it's done cooking. Another important side note about grabbers is that customers can take items they ordered off of the grabbers, as demonstrated here. As you can see in the demonstration, we had to plate the burgers ourselves. We'll talk about how to automate that later on. Lastly is the rotating grabber. This grabber is a lot like the other grabbers, but as we can see, when we go into practice mode or start the day, when we press interact on it, it will change the direction, and instead, move an item placed onto it in the direction the arrow is pointing. As we can see, it can go left, center, and right. This is especially useful for compacting automation, but watch out, it only acts as a regular grabber and not a smart grabber, so it'll grab anything in front of it. As we can see, it almost burns on this hob. This is when our next automation item comes in handy, the safety hob. Next up is the hob and its upgrades. The safety hob is an upgraded version of the hob, along with the danger hob. The safety hob, when cooking, does not burn any items placed on it, but to make it fair, it's slower at cooking. The next item is the danger hob, the opposite of the safety hob. It can burn things, and when it does, it catches fire, so it's not very useful for automation, except for a few cases which I'll explain later. So now we have the exact same setup as before, but this time, it does not burn. So this is very useful if you want to have a fully automated cooking setup. For the danger hob, we can see that when it burns, it catches on fire. So you may be wondering, how do we stop it from burning and catching on fire? That's where the combiner comes in handy. The combiner, simply put, does exactly what its name says. It combines items placed on it with the item on the appliance in front of the blue arrows. For example, here, once the patty's done cooking, it combines the bun with the cooked patty. A really handy tip is that when a combiner is pointed at a sink, it fills the item in the sink with water, for example, flour or a pot, as you can see demonstrated here and here. Next up is the mixer and its upgrades. To start off, the mixer, simply put, mixes the item placed on it until it's done mixing all of its stages. For example, a tomato will mix through all of its stages until it's tomato sauce. This also unfortunately applies to the rest of the mixer upgrades. Next up is the conveyor mixer, which when done mixing, it will push the mixed item onto the appliance in front of it, much like a conveyor, as demonstrated here. The conveyor mixer is especially useful for compacting automation setups. Next up is the rapid mixer. Simply put, it's a faster version of the mixer. Pretty self-explanatory. Next up is the heated mixer. Much like the conveyor mixer, when it's done mixing through all of its stages, it cooks the item placed on it. For example, pie crust. As we can see, it's much slower than a regular hob, but as an upside it doesn't burn, much like the safety hob. Next up is the portioner. Much like the combiner, it does exactly what its name says. It portions an item, like a pizza, in front of it, and it places the portion onto the portioner. For example, this pizza. As we can see, even if there's something on the portioner, the bar fills up. So when we take it off the portioner, it immediately places it back onto the portioner. Another use case for the portioner is for items like corn and pumpkins. For corn, it husks the corn, just like that. And for pumpkins, it takes out the seeds. This can also, of course, be used for stuff like soups. Next up is the dumbwaiter, and it's much more useful for automation upgrade, the teleporter. For both of these items, you need at least 2 of them for it to be useful. For the dumbwaiter, it teleports items put in it to other dumbwaiters, but only one of the dumbwaiter's doors can be open at a time. For example, right here. However, for the teleporters, they are bought in pairs, and you do not need to open the door or close it for them to teleport, as demonstrated here. However, the downside is that you can't get the item teleported back onto the teleporter, so you'll need access to the other teleporter, or just don't make any mistakes. Much like the grabbers, customers can grab items on the teleporters off of them if they order it, as demonstrated here. However, you may have noticed 2 flaws in that design. I had to plate the burgers myself, and I had to take the orders myself. So let's see how we can improve that and make that fully automated. This is where the Autoplater which automatically places the item in front of the blue arrows, and the ordering terminal, which when you interact with it, automatically takes a random table's order. Let's see what it looks like in this demonstration. As you can see, when I interact with it, it takes the table's order, and the Autoplater automatically plates the burger on the teleporter before it teleports. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to comment them down below, and have fun automating! Jeez, this place looks like a mess.